hardly anyone can escape the war in Gaza. Yet, in this remote part of the Negev desert, there is a narrow exit door. On the tarmac of Eilat Airport, a plane from the United Arab Emirates is getting ready to evacuate survivors from the Palestinian enclave. The Emirati team finalizes the last details with Israeli security agents.
The medical team are now going from the plane to the terminal to try and see the patients that have just arrived.
87 Gazans, war casualties and cancer patients, start boarding, accompanied by at least one relative.
هذا العيال ثلاثة مسجلين هون الحمد لله على السلامة. تفضل افتحي جوا.
Ambulances from the Magen David, the Israeli equivalent of the Red Cross, help the most severe cases on board. Getting out of Gaza has become nearly impossible since Israel's offensive on Rafah last May. Yet, this is the third medical evacuation directly from Israel to Abu Dhabi. These extremely rare operations are the result of the new relations established between the Gulf state and Israel in 2020.
All of this was through keeping a direct communication with the Israeli side. It's been so challenging to get patients out. The fact that we've managed to do this with in coordination on several fronts, we're delighted.
A fragile line of communication the diplomat is eager to maintain.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please take care. Hope to see you next time.
Among those evacuated is Ali Darwish, a 10-year-old with autism who survived an Israeli airstrike that killed 11 members of his family. His grandmother Khitam is by his side.
شو المشكلة عنده؟ مكسر ظهره؟
Ali has been paralyzed from the waist down for 6 months. He could not access proper medical care in Gaza, where most hospitals have been destroyed.
Do you want to sit up? Here you see his fracture wasn't fixed right. Does it hurt? My children are dead, but this one, I hope he can be treated to get better. He should have had surgery for his back right away, but there was no medical equipment, practically no staff, no medication. There was no healthcare.
The war in Gaza has killed or wounded 1 child every 10 minutes, according to UNICEF. Despite their hardships, these passengers are lucky. They are some of the few selected by doctors in Gaza and granted exit permits by the Israeli authorities. There are almost no men on board, and everyone here carries the heavy burden of loved ones left behind.
Hello? ماما حبيبي كيف حالك؟ كيف صحتك؟ خليك قوي ماما.
At the other end of the line is Ala Helou's 10-year-old son. She had to leave him in Gaza in order to save her other son, 7-year-old Mustafa, from an amputation.
War has destroyed us. We no longer have a house. The family's split apart. Some have left. Others have died. And I'm separated from one of my sons. At the last minute, the Israelis refused his permit. They told me, you either cancel the trip or you leave your son. That's the choice I had to make.
زي ما بتشوف الطيران في السماء اللي كان يقصفنا.
These evacuations have already allowed over 1,100 patients to be sent to Abu Dhabi, but more than 100,000 injured people are still stuck in Gaza.
We have never seen this sort of the intensity and the frequency and the continuation of horrors like we're seeing now. By medically evacuating, we can save a few hundred, but if we can achieve a ceasefire, we can save so much more.
3 hours later, the plane lands in Abu Dhabi. The most urgent cases are transferred to emergency care. Since October 7th, the United Arab Emirates have ramped up their humanitarian efforts for Gaza, a way to polish their image and reassure the Arab public opinion firmly supportive of the Palestinian cause. At the Sheikh Khalifa Hospital, one of the biggest medical centers in Abu Dhabi, Ali is waking up from an MRI under general anesthesia. Dr. Al-Wawi takes care of him.
Hello, Ali. He's just starting to wake up. Wait 5-10 minutes before giving him any food. For Ali, things will take time. We are still running tests. His skin is infected, and we are scared it might reach the bones. The injury he suffered has also affected his spine and the spinal cord. We will only know how serious it is when we start physiotherapy.
The doctors don't know if Ali will ever walk again. For now, nurses give him antibiotics, and his grandmother Khitam provides moral support.
I've never seen him like this.
I've come from Gaza with optimism. May God help this child heal. I feel that he's doing better. He laughs with me. Before he used to only stare and scream. It's a big difference. You can play with the cars.
Ali will have to spend several months in hospital. All of his expenses are covered by Abu Dhabi. The UAE wants to establish itself as a global hub for humanitarian aid. A key part of this strategy is this brand new city, which can house up to 12,000 people at the edge of the desert. It first welcomed Afghans after the fall of Kabul, and now accommodates over 2,200 Gazans under the supervision of Mubarak al-Qahtani. Every journey here begins with a quarantine.
A new group has arrived 2 days ago. This is where we run medical tests for people coming from Gaza. We hope their results will be ready by tonight.
Passengers from the Eilat flight, Ala and Mustafa, are here.
السلام عليكم. كيف حالك يا أختي؟ شو أخبارك؟ شو الصحة؟
We try to see what they need, like a wheelchair or clothes. Most people arrive with nothing except for the clothes they're wearing. The children don't speak much. We think they may be scared. They barely say a word. With this last group, it's more difficult than usual. We can see from their faces and by talking with them that they've suffered deep trauma. See you soon.
Mustafa and his mum spent over a year in the Deir al-Balah refugee camp in central Gaza. The population there suffers from severe food shortages due to Israeli blockades. The little boy's first treat is an orange.
He really loves oranges, but it's been a long time since he had fruit. 3 or 4 months, maybe. You just can't find them. And if you do find one, it's so expensive, you can't afford it.
In Gaza, starvation is used as a weapon of war. Far away from the bombs, mother and son explore their new home.
Mustafa heard there's a playground, so he wants to go. It looks comfortable here, but my family is separated. When I sleep on a pillow, I think about my other son who sleeps on the ground. We're doing well here, but my head is over there.
Once their quarantine is over, Ala and Mustafa will join the evacuees from previous flights.
We're going to the part of the city where the sick and wounded from Gaza live. Here are some residential buildings. Our goal is purely humanitarian. We want to help countries who are going through difficult times.
To help Gazans recover from the horrors of war, the UAE offers 5-star services, schools for children and physiotherapy sessions, but also beauty salons, catering, dry cleaning, and video games. Everything here is free, and the Emirates also provide a €3,000 monthly allowance to each person. Everywhere Mubarak steps foot, he is greeted like a benefactor by crowds of smiling children.
I know everyone's name. We consider them as guests, and we welcome them the way we would welcome a brother. Those are the guidelines set by the President of the Republic, and we hope that we can welcome even more people.
This show of solidarity has its limits and doesn't extend much beyond the gates of this city. Residents are only allowed to leave on organized bus tours. In the streets of Abu Dhabi, there are no protests in solidarity with Gaza and no Palestinian flags. Instead, giant portraits of the ruling sheikhs, headed by Mohammed bin Zayed. Despite the war, the president continues to encourage economic cooperation with Israel. In this modern district, a yearly conference gathers international finance executives for business talks. Ron Daniel from Tel Aviv runs a $3 billion asset management firm.
Founding CEO and CIO of Vibrant Capital Partners, Lawrence Goller.
We see a lot of growth focus around, of course, MENA region. We have a big office here because of that.
Ron was one of the first Israeli businessmen to invest in the UAE after the Abraham Accords.
As an Israeli, on my Israeli box, I'm extremely excited. I think we are creating the future. That's our win. You don't win through bomb. You win from day-to-day business, economy, making life better. You know, simple wins.
His offices are a few steps away in these towers where hundreds of foreign firms operate. Ron's company specializes in something the Emirates are particularly keen to develop: artificial intelligence.
We have 2 R&D centers. One of them is in Israel, and this is the second one. It's grow beyond the Israeli center through the last year, and it's expected to reach 120 people by the end of 2025.
The staff comes from all over the world, including countries like Lebanon or Algeria, which do not have diplomatic relations with Israel. For Ron, this multicultural open space, which survived the shock of October 7th, is an example for the region.
To be honest, I was terrified. That was like an earthquake for us, for all Jews in the world. But it was very safe here. I think we created an environment where everyone just wants to be normal. One of my goals were to pioneering something which is make a difference, okay? Because with all due respect to peace agreement, etc., that's nothing, you know? At the end of the day, it's people interacting, building things together, and there's nothing like commerce and industries and manufacturing and creating value that bridge gaps between people.
Ron lives with his family in the UAE and doesn't see himself going back to Israel. To promote its regional peace strategy, Abu Dhabi also relies on a powerful media outlet, Sky News Arabia. This 24-hour news channel is a subsidiary of the UK-based Sky Group and belongs to Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the brother of the Emirati president. In charge of the editorial line, Nadi Mattish, a Lebanese journalist who acquired Emirati citizenship and is in favor of peace with Israel.
رامية بأي هيدلاين طالعة بالنشرة اللي بعد هاي؟
غزة بالبداية بالوضع الإنساني نتحدث مفصلا عن المجاعة في قطاع غزة.
Gaza is on all screens, but unlike Qatar's Al Jazeera, the first Arab channel in the region that has an openly pro-Palestinian narrative, Sky News reflects the diplomatic choices of the Emirates. Iman Lahrash, a Moroccan presenter, hosts a political show.
When is your next show?
It should be Radar at 6 p.m.
Okay.
I can ask questions like, okay, Israel has done things. It has forcibly displaced people. But who carried out October 7th? What is Hamas's share of the responsibility? There are people in the Arab world who don't like this. They don't like these questions to be asked.
This is a challenging and daily test, one fraught with accusations and misunderstandings. It's also a battle for the hearts and minds in the region, and we are part of this battle to build a peaceful future.
A fine balancing act dictated by Emirati foreign policy. To extend their regional peace project all the way to Gaza, the Emirates are also moving their pawns in another country. Egypt. In the heart of the Sinai Desert, authorities agreed to take us to a military-controlled zone, usually closed off to journalists. Endless lines of international aid trucks aimed for Gaza are stuck at the Rafah crossing, blocked by Israel. But the Emiratis, who bailed out Egypt last February, have negotiated a way around this problem. Every day, engineer Khalid al-Nakbi drives along the border, where an ironic peace symbol stands.
Here we're in Rafah on the Egyptian side, about 500 meters from the Gaza Strip. It's very close to the border, but the Emirates have strong relations with Egypt, and they facilitate access for us.
On the other side of this impenetrable wall, the remains of the Palestinian city of Rafah, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are battling to survive. In the sky, the Israeli Air Force. During our visit, we hear 5 strikes.
I'm not scared. I'm here to help. Knowing that you come to help means you put a lot of things behind you. It's not in our hands. We live day by day. This is where our project starts.
At the end of the road, the sound of Israeli drones never stops. On the beach, the Emiratis have laid a network of 3-kilometer-long pipes that run under the border to deliver 1.2 million gallons of water a day to Gaza.
With this meter, you can check the amount of water entering Gaza.
While Israel deprives the Palestinian enclave from water, this system allows 600,000 people, a quarter of the population, to drink.
You can't imagine how happy we were when the first drops of water reached Gaza.
But the tap can be cut off at any moment by Israel. To find water in the middle of the desert, Khalid and his team are using a technique the Emiratis are very familiar with: desalination.
Salted water is pulled out of these wells with pipes that are connected to the purification station. And over there, we filter the water.
A dozen Emirati volunteers rotate shifts in these containers where 6 mobile plants are located.
You check the chemicals and the fuel? Okay. We test the water every day. And I think of the Palestinians who will be able to drink clean water.
These infrastructure projects, designed to be moved around easily, foreshadow the humanitarian aid the Emirates could deploy inside Gaza. 40 kilometers from the border, at the Al Arish port, this cargo ship is a floating hospital. It arrived from Abu Dhabi a year ago and has already treated over 8,200 casualties from the war. Sitting behind his microscope, Dr. Al-Kabi runs the operations.
تبين أن فيها بكتيريا فبنبلغ الدكتور يعني لين ما تطلع المزرعة البكتيرية. بصراحة يعني
Honestly, the first thing I noticed was that a lot of wounds are very severely infected.
الجروح عالية. طبعا هذه ثلاجة.
This is the fridge where we keep blood units that can be immediately transfused to our patients.
لنقلها للمرضى.
The blood comes directly from the Emirates by plane.
Equipped with cutting-edge technology and operating theatres that can accommodate up to 15 surgeries a day, this ship is already one of the most prestigious healthcare facilities in the region.
Transporting a hospital with such capacities on a ship or a vessel is a challenge. We received unlimited support from our leadership. We have vast resources that are well adapted to the situation, even if the number of patients increases.
About 100 patients live on board, under tents. Because beyond emergency care, this ship is also the only place where resourceless Gazans can receive long-term treatment. Yazin, a 10-year-old orphan, is one of them. He had his leg amputated without anesthesia when he was in Gaza.
Can you move a bit? That's great. We hope we can make a nice prosthetic for you, so you can walk without crutches.
After weeks of physiotherapy, 32-year-old Manal is learning how to stand again.
No help before, okay?
MashaAllah.
She was severely wounded during an Israeli strike on a bakery.
She is tired.
The day before, Manal reached a milestone.
It was the first time I managed to walk. I'm very happy. I sent the video to my parents in Gaza. I remember I had been in the line for 3 hours just to buy bread when the bombs fell. Shrapnel struck me in the head. They said it was over. In Gaza, my case was not a priority. Then I was transferred 3 times until a hospital in Egypt. I had surgery there to replace a tendon and I was able to walk again.
The young woman should be able to walk by herself in a few months. Between her sessions, she sometimes joins other patients on the docks. Here, children can enjoy a large playground next to a Bedouin tent, where women try to relax and connect over their shared experiences.
We come here to take our minds off the war. We talk about sad things, happy things. Sometimes we sing poetry. It depends. We all share the same dream here. We want the war to stop so we can go home to Gaza. I feel lonely here. I'm homesick.
Until they can return to Gaza, Manal, Yazan, and the other patients will continue their treatments in Egypt. Balancing humanitarian aid and diplomatic efforts, the Emirates are positioning themselves as the regional power best equipped to shape the future of the Palestinian enclave. But the oil-rich monarchy won't write a blank check. In Abu Dhabi, the state minister in charge of international cooperation sets the terms for Emirati engagement.
There is no point to rebuild and then have this repeat. We need to break this perpetual cycle of violence, and today everybody is talking about a two-state solution except for Israel. And if Israel were to recognize that for a long-term peace, the Palestinian people are to also have their own state, that would be the game changer that would also allow the Arab world to come forward in their relationship with Israel. And what's equally important is that a Palestinian government that is transparent and competent and reformed is able to rise to the occasion of providing for their people.
The Emirates claim they will not interfere in Gaza's politics, but they could have a card to play. Mohammed Dahlan, this Gazan-born politician and businessman, lives in exile in Abu Dhabi and could be a potential candidate to replace Hamas leadership. The Emirates have already entrusted him with operations of charity and influence, like the distribution of COVID vaccines in Gaza or the organization of collective weddings. But the former Fatah leader carries a controversial reputation. He is at odds with Mahmoud Abbas's Palestinian Authority, and he was convicted on charges of corruption and embezzlement. He did not respond to our interview requests. Meanwhile, far from the political fray, in Abu Dhabi's humanitarian city, Mustafa is beginning to rediscover the simple joys of life. A month after our first visit, the pins were removed from his legs.
He's completely forgotten about his injury. It looks like he wants to fly.
Mustafa has even started talking again, especially to buy sweets.
اوكي ايش بدك؟
اعطيني شيبسي بس ابيض.
من هو؟
زي هذا بس.
قصدك فشار بس ما بيحرق. تاخذ تكمل الايس كريم؟ والايس كريم اللي شريته.
Ala is happy to see her son focusing on childhood concerns and tends to spoil him to keep him busy.
We wake up, we clean up, we have breakfast, sometimes we watch TV. He is happy, but he also says, "Mum, I'm bored." Sometimes we go out to the mall, but he thought we'd be able to roam around the city whenever we want, and that's not the case. I told him that's not what we're here for. We're here for treatment.
Mustafa needs another surgery. But his stay in the UAE is only temporary, because even if these Palestinians were tempted to start a new life here, Abu Dhabi does not recognize refugee status. Ala feels her life in limbo and clings to her memories.
I remember my house. The street has so many trees there, it was like going into a garden. From the window I could smell jasmine, we could hear birds singing. All of that is gone. We'll have to start our lives again from scratch. It will be hard, but the most important thing is that the family's reunited. If we're together, we can face anything.
Before they go back to Gaza, Ala, Mustafa, and all of the Gazans living in Abu Dhabi use their time away from the war to regain strength. At home in Gaza, everything will need to be rebuilt. A massive challenge the Emirates are also preparing for.